People who worked in restaurants, what was the worst customer that you had to deal with? I used to work in a bar that sold very old booze. A drunk man tried to impress his friends by chugging from a bottle of Amaro from the early 60s. He had to pay for the whole thing since his lips touched it and it was useless. Cost him around $800. Barista here. Had a guy that regularly came in and ordered a complicated drink. He always finished the order by asking for a finger swirl in the drink. If you gave him a confused look, he would say, "Well, how else am I gonna taste you?" He was the worst. There was a private party at our bar. A drunk guy came in and ordered a drink. I could tell he wasn't with us by his clothes and the fact that he kept coming in every now and then. I told him I couldn't get him a drink. He was completely nuts. He told me to go to hell and then he wanted to fight me. On his way out, he yelled that we needed to put up signs, passing signs on the door that said we were closed for a private event. Work in a place that is frequented by local families and youth sports teams. On Sundays, this one large group of people always come in and they are the worst. The parents drink and ignore their preteens who run around playing games in the entire restaurant, disrupting everyone else. They have tried to walk in a party of 45 during end-of-year sports party season when we are booked solid, and get mad that there isn't enough space for them. And they modify everything like crazy and leave zero in a tip. It's at least once a month the entire group comes in. And weekly for some of the individual families. P.S. Wow, thanks for the upvotes. Been a rough time. Like unbelievably, and this oddly helped. Also, I am not a server. I am a cook who happens to take orders, pour beer, run food, clear tables, and do dishes. But primarily I cook. After a wedding reception ended at our facility, we were cleaning and I began the cleaning process on our espresso machine. The party was over almost a half hour already. The process takes 12 minutes. People were still there as the party slowly let out and the father of the bride asks me for an espresso. I told him I could get it to him, as we have a strict policy of always trying to satisfy a guest's needs, but the machine was cleaning and it would be done in about 10 minutes. He begins ranting about how much he paid for the wedding and stormed to our banquets manager and told them I refused to make it for him. Manager is a bag and starts ripping me in front of the guy. I show both of them that the machine is just finishing the cleaning process and it was impossible to make it beforehand. I got suspended for 2 weeks. Bartending in a restaurant a few years ago. There was a private party and one of the guests asked me to plug in his iPhone to listen to a song. No big deal. I did it and he tipped me $20. He left his phone behind the bar and got wasted. When he was leaving, I said, "Sir, don't forget about your phone." He threw a beer on me and told me to leave him the fuck alone and told me get a real job. Guess who got to keep a nice new iPhone? He left but didn't take his phone. 2 days later, he came back and accused me of stealing it. The manager almost started an investigation and I nearly got fired. It turned out he just forgot to pick up his phone, but I had to deal with all that drama. I waited tables for a few years in college and the worst table that I ever had was a Catholic priest and some guy he was trying to hit up for donations. The whole meal he was very condescending and demanding. After everything was done, I left the check at the table. He ended up walking out stiffing me not just on the tip but on the entire check. He even stole the leather check holder thing. I reported this to my manager. A couple weeks later, the same guy comes in with about 20 members of his congregation. My manager told him he wasn't welcome in our restaurant after walking out on his previous tab in front of his whole party. They all ended up leaving to go elsewhere. Best manager I've ever had. I worked in a beach town in NJ for a while, and New York tourists were the worst. It was the act that they were doing everybody a favor by being there. This was a rich beach town, not one that relied on tourism at all. In fact, these arrogant tourists probably brought the average income down, and definitely brought the average tips down. And anybody who snapped their fingers. I preferred "hey, you" to finger snapping. Used to work in an Indian restaurant in southern England. It was special forces training in enduring racism and bodily harm. My father, who worked with me, had his front teeth knocked out by a drunken customer. I saw a woman punched unconscious outside because she got into someone else's taxi. And you thought your shift at Olive Garden was bad. Used to work in an Indian restaurant in southern England. It was special forces training in enduring racism and bodily harm. My father, who worked with me, had his front teeth knocked out by a drunken customer. I saw a woman punched unconscious outside because she got into someone else's taxi. And you thought your shift at Olive Garden was bad?